full video script. Imagine a civilization so advanced that 5,000 years ago, while most of humanity was still figuring out basic farming, they were already creating intricate jade carvings, brewing alcohol, and building massive walls that would make modern engineers scratch their heads. Sounds impossible, right? But here's what shocked me. The Yellow River civilization wasn't just one culture. It was a spectacular collision of multiple societies that somehow merged to create what we now call Chinese civilization. And the way archaeologists discovered this, it rewrites everything we thought we knew about human development. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you see ancient history. And it involves a discovery so recent that most history textbooks haven't even caught up yet. The river that birthed a superpower. Let's be honest, when you hear cradle of civilization, you probably think Mesopotamia or Egypt, right? But here's the shocking part. The Yellow River Basin in northern China was developing civilization at the exact same time, completely independently. We're talking 7000 BCE. The Yellow River, called Huanghe in Chinese, isn't called China's sorrow for nothing. This 5,464-kilometer beast is the world's muddiest major river, carrying 1.6 billion tons of sediment annually. That's like dumping the weight of 400 Great Pyramids into the ocean every single year. But here's why this matters. That sediment created the most fertile soil imaginable. The Loess Plateau, this yellowish, superfine silt, was so easy to work that early farmers didn't even need metal tools. They could literally dig with sticks and grow millet like crazy. Archaeological evidence shows that by 5000 BCE, settlements along the Yellow River were cultivating foxtail millet and broomcorn millet with yields that could support populations of thousands. Compare this to Mesopotamia, where farmers battled salinization and needed complex irrigation. The Yellow River essentially gave ancient Chinese an agricultural cheat code. But wait, there's something even more mind-blowing about WHO these first settlers actually were. Not one civilization, but a melting pot. You know what's crazy? For decades, historians taught that Chinese civilization developed in one neat line. Yangshao culture, Longshan culture, Xia dynasty, Shang dynasty. Clean, simple, completely wrong. Recent archaeological discoveries, particularly the Liangzhu culture near the Yangtze River, 3300 to 2300 BCE, and the Hongshan culture in the northeast, 4700 to 2900 BCE, prove that ancient China was actually a spectacular collision of multiple advanced societies. The Hongshan people in Inner Mongolia were creating jade dragons and building ceremonial pyramids when Stonehenge was just getting started. Meanwhile, 1,500 kilometers south, the Liangzhu civilization was constructing hydraulic engineering projects so sophisticated that UNESCO called them an outstanding example of early hydraulic engineering. We're talking about dams, levees, and water gates from 3000 BCE. Here's a jaw-dropping comparison. The Liangzhu built a 5-kilometer-long dam that required moving 2.88 million cubic meters of earth. The Great Pyramid of Giza? 2.5 million cubic meters. These ancient Chinese engineers moved more earth than pyramid builders, and they did it earlier. Humor. And here we are in 2024, needing 17 YouTube tutorials and 3 trips to Home Depot just to install a bookshelf. Our ancestors built civilization-scale hydraulic systems with stone tools, and we can't assemble IKEA furniture without an existential crisis. But here's where things get really interesting. How did all these separate cultures suddenly merge into one civilization? The secret ingredient: millet, pigs, and social hierarchy. Let me tell you something that blew my mind when I first learned it. Agriculture didn't just feed people, it created inequality. And inequality, weirdly enough, was crucial for civilization. Early Yellow River settlements around 5000 BCE were remarkably egalitarian. Archaeological excavations at Banpo village near modern Xi'an show houses of similar sizes, shared communal spaces, and burial goods distributed pretty evenly. Everyone was basically equal. Fast forward to 3000 BCE, the Longshan period, and suddenly you see massive differences. Some tombs contain hundreds of jade pieces, elaborate pottery, and even human sacrifices. Other graves, just a body and maybe a pot. What happened? The answer: agricultural surplus, pig domestication, social stratification. Researchers analyzing ancient pig remains discovered something fascinating. In early periods, pigs were small, semi-wild, and probably community-owned. By the Longshan period, pigs were 30% larger, clearly domesticated, and, here's the kicker, their remains are concentrated in elite burial sites. Pigs became wealth. You could feed pigs the millet surplus, throw massive feasts, gain followers, and consolidate power. Longshan elite tomb at Taosi contained remains from a feast with over 200 pigs. That's not just dinner, that's a political statement worth millions in today's money. This pattern, agricultural surplus creating social hierarchy, happened independently in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Mesoamerica. But the Yellow River civilization did something unique, and that unique element would determine China's path for the next 5,000 years. The invention of mandate of heaven before it even had a name. The real question is, how did early Chinese elites justify their power? In Egypt, pharaohs were literally gods. In Mesopotamia, kings were chosen by gods. But in ancient China, something philosophically different was brewing. Archaeological evidence from the Taosi site, 2300 to 1900 BCE, likely the capital of the legendary Xia dynasty, reveals something extraordinary: an ancient observatory. This wasn't just for looking at pretty stars. Researchers discovered that the structure's sightlines perfectly tracked solstices and equinoxes. Why does this matter? Because controlling the calendar meant controlling agriculture. If you could predict the perfect planting time, you weren't just powerful, you were cosmically connected. You understood heaven's will. This concept, that rulers maintained power through cosmic harmony, not just military might, became the philosophical foundation of Chinese civilization. Millennia before Confucius formalized the mandate of heaven, Yellow River elites were already practicing it. Here's a stunning statistic. Of the 33 major Chinese dynasties over 4,000 years, 27 justified their rule through this cosmic connection concept. That's 82%. Compare this to European monarchies, where divine right emerged much later and never achieved the same philosophical sophistication. Humor. Basically, ancient Chinese rulers invented the ultimate job security. I'm not saying I'm heaven's favorite, but have you noticed how the crops are doing great? Just saying. Meanwhile, if crops failed, heaven was clearly angry, and revolution was cosmically justified. Talk about performance-based employment. But there's one more shocking discovery that ties everything together: the DNA evidence that changes everything. You're probably wondering, how do we know these different cultures actually merged? Great question. And the answer comes from cutting-edge genetic archaeology that's only emerged in the last decade. A groundbreaking 2020 study published in Nature analyzed ancient DNA from 191 individuals across northern China spanning 8,000 years. The results? Absolutely stunning. The genetic data shows that between 3000 to 2000 BCE, there was massive population mixing. The Yangshao people, Yellow River, Hongshan people, Northeast, and groups from the Sichuan Basin weren't just trading, they were intermarrying at unprecedented rates. Within just 1,000 years, genetic markers from all these groups appeared throughout northern China. One researcher described it as one of the most dramatic population integrations in human history. For comparison, it took European populations nearly 3,000 years to achieve similar genetic mixing after agriculture arrived. What caused this sudden integration? 3 factors. First, climate change. Around 2000 BCE, the region experienced severe cooling and droughts. Communities couldn't survive alone, they needed to cooperate or perish. Second, metallurgy. Bronze technology, imported from Central Asia around 2000 BCE, created new trade networks that connected distant regions. Suddenly, tin from Yunnan was mixing with copper from Shanxi to create bronze in Henan. You can't have those supply chains without massive cultural contact. Third, warfare. Let's be real. Not all integration was peaceful. Fortified settlements from this period show clear evidence of violent conflicts. Some cultures conquered others. But here's the fascinating part. Even conquered peoples were integrated into the emerging civilization, not eliminated. Their technologies, beliefs, and genes all became part of the mix. This is fundamentally different from other ancient civilizations. When Rome conquered, it Romanized. When Egypt conquered, it Egyptianized. But the Yellow River civilization? It synthesized. It took jade working from the east, pottery styles from the west, agricultural techniques from the south, and shamanic practices from the north, and wove them into something new. And that synthetic quality became China's secret superpower for millennia. Mid-roll CTA. Quick thing before we dive into the final piece of this puzzle. If you're finding this deep dive into ancient history as fascinating as I do me a huge favor and smash that like button. It genuinely helps YouTube show this content to more history enthusiasts like yourself. And definitely subscribe because I've got an entire series on ancient civilizations coming up that you won't want to miss. Hit that bell so you catch the next video about the mysterious Xia dynasty. All right, now back to the most shocking discovery about Yellow River civilization. The writing system that united everything. Here's the final piece that makes Yellow River civilization truly unique, the writing system. And it's not what you think. Chinese characters, Hanzi, aren't just a writing system. They're a unifying technology that worked across different languages and cultures. Let me explain why this is absolutely revolutionary. When archaeologists discovered oracle bones at Anyang, 1899 CE, turtle shells and ox bones with ancient inscriptions from 1200 BCE, they found something shocking. These weren't just records. They were questions carved into bones, which were then heated until they cracked. Diviners interpreted the cracks as answers from ancestors and gods. But here's the genius part. The character system was already fully developed by 1200 BCE. We're talking about 3,000 plus distinct characters with consistent meanings. This doesn't happen overnight. Researchers now believe the writing system was developing for at least 1,000 years before the oracle bones, possibly starting around 2500 BCE during the Longshan period. Why does this matter? Because unlike alphabetic systems that represent sounds, which change between languages, Chinese characters represent meanings. A person speaking the Yangshao language and someone speaking the Hongshan language might not understand each other's speech, but they could read the same characters and understand the same concepts. This is like if English, German, and French speakers couldn't understand each other's speech, but could all read the same symbols and get the same meaning. It's a unification technology more powerful than any army. Modern linguist John DeFrancis calculated that this character system allowed cultural unity across regions with linguistic diversity equivalent to the entire Indo-European language family. Imagine the entire area from Iceland to India using one writing system that everyone could understand despite speaking completely different languages. That's what the Yellow River civilization achieved. And this is why Chinese civilization, unlike Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Indus Valley, never truly fell. Closing. So let's recap the mind-blowing journey we just took. The Yellow River civilization wasn't a single culture developing in isolation. It was a spectacular merger of multiple advanced societies between 3000 to 2000 BCE, driven by climate change, bronze technology, and warfare. These cultures brought jade working, hydraulic engineering, millet agriculture, and shamanic practices, synthesizing them into something entirely new. The secret ingredients? Agricultural surplus creating social hierarchy, cosmic philosophy justifying leadership, and, most importantly, a writing system that unified diverse peoples across vast distances. This synthesis created a civilization so resilient that it's the only ancient civilization still thriving today in continuous form. Now here's my question for you. Do you think the Yellow River civilization's success came more from environmental advantages, that incredibly fertile loess soil, or from cultural innovation, the synthetic approach and writing system? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and I'm genuinely curious what you think. And if you're wondering what else shaped early Chinese history, drop your questions below. This community is incredible, and your input literally shapes what I research next. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new, subscribe if you want more deep dives into ancient civilizations, and hit that bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Speaking of what's next, we talked about this mysterious synthesis period, but there's one dynasty that supposedly emerged from it that historians debated for centuries: the Xia dynasty. Was it real? Was it myth? Recent archaeological discoveries have uncovered evidence so compelling that it's rewriting our understanding of China's first dynasty. In my next video, I'll reveal what archaeologists found at the Erlitou site that's making skeptics reconsider everything, including evidence of bronze casting techniques that shouldn't have existed yet, palace foundations larger than football fields, and a discovery that might finally prove the Xia dynasty was absolutely real. You won't believe what 21st century science has uncovered about China's legendary first rulers. See you there.